What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics Daily Channel with me, Mike Zakarian, as we continue to get closer, just oh so close to NBA basketball. We had all of these different media days yesterday. Everybody but the Sixers, who already had their media day. And media day is the best. You want to know why? Because no basketball's actually played, and everybody is just pie in the sky. It's the happiest, most glass half full conversation you'll ever have. Everybody is in the best shape of their life, both emotionally, spiritually, physically. Everybody's fresh off vacation. They're just, again, there's no wins in the win column, but there's no losses in the loss column either. So some really good quotes. What we'll do today is kind of do our best to get through some of it. I know we usually have the four topics over here on this side, and so I'll do my best to go through those. But it's just kind of going to be a smorgasbord of quotes from yesterday's media day. And take a drink if smorgasbord was on your drink card. But before we get started, do me a favor: if it's your first time tuning in, hit the subscribe. Hit the subscribe. As we're getting closer to the Celtics start of the season, it's a reminder that once we hit 3K subs, we're going to be giving away a pair of Celtics tickets out to some of you, or to one of you, I guess. So get involved. Let's give away some tickets. Get involved in the chat. Do all of those things. But let's go. One of the more intriguing things that I saw yesterday was Missoula talking about some different things they're trying to implement this year. And I want to make sure I get this quote right, because I thought this was wild. I thought this was absolutely wild. And he basically wants to approach it as the best that I can describe as hockey shifts. Where we'd be doing 4 or 5 on at a time. So let me get the actual quote here. Jordan Walsh said that Jordan Walsh said that Joe Mazzulla and the Celtics discussed a 5-in, 5-out approach this season, where new lineups are coming in every 4 to 5 minutes and play as hard as they can. You would like to think that they are playing as hard as they can, anyways, but I do understand what they're meaning here. This is actually my approach to my 40 and over basketball league, where instead of me playing the whole game, sometimes I'm like, hey, what if I just play 4 minutes like a true psychopath? And I think that's what Missoula is trying to implement this year. I do wonder how much of this, because I think this is an interesting conversation for the start of this season, and there's been rumblings around this throughout the league. I know Zach Lowe has reported on this multiple times. He had Rick Carlisle on his show this past week, and they kind of discussed this a little bit. But I wonder how many teams have looked at both what the new collective bargaining agreement is and how hard it is to pay big time stars, but also what the Indiana Pacers did last year as they made their finals run. And for those that were watching the Pacers or didn't watch the Pacers until they got to the finals or the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe you missed it. But the key to what Indiana did this year was they just straight up played harder than everybody. I know that's a dumb thing to say, but I mean, if you just look at the stats that back it up and the data that backs it up, they were more than any other team were picking up a team's full court. The second the ball was inbounded, they had a defender on them. They were just hounding and hounding and hounding throughout the entire season. And in the regular season, that equates to wins. But even in the postseason, it did, as you saw them make their finals run. And I wonder if, I apologize, guys, incredibly congested here. I wonder if Joe is hey, listen, we don't have our normal top-tier talent that we've had the past few years. We need to approach the season a little bit differently. And what if we just get our guys? It almost feels like a Disney sports movie. We're going to be in the best possible shape, and we're just going to outwork and outrun everyone on the floor. And maybe that's what they're going to do. They're going to be like, hey, listen, we'll start with this 5. This 5, I want you to play like mad dogs. And then the second, you have a little bit of the next 5 come in, and you just keep going and going and going. And I wonder if that is one way to, combat the talent suck, for lack of a better word, that the Celtics have right now. Because, yes, of course, top tier in Jaylen Brown and Derek White, maybe a step below. You have Peyton Pritchard and Anfernee Simons. But after that, it's a lot of what ifs. It's a lot of role players that we really don't know what we have yet. That includes the front court, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But, if you got a lot of guys around the same level, your Jordan Walshes, Baylor Shireman's, Hugo Gonzalez, you just fire them out there, let them run wild for a little bit, just aggressive press, and then see what happens from there. I think it's a desperate strategy. It's an interesting strategy, but this is kind of the stuff that I am looking forward to for this season if this Celtics team is going to be a little bit less than, if you will. What kind of weird things can we do to, just test stuff out that, again, and I was saying this about with rotation guys, but I also do think strategy wise, it makes sense too. Let's throw some stuff out there, see what works. and then cherry pick and bring some of this stuff back to us when Tatum is back, whether that's February or whatever, who knows. And let's talk about Tatum here for a second. He basically, I feel like he walked some of the stuff back a little bit, where it almost like he had his chest out last week while he was doing his press tour, being like, hey, who knows? I could be back tomorrow. He seems like he was like, who knows if I'm going to play this year? Excuse me. It sounds like the plan is just to rehab as hard as he can, and then along with team doctors, his own training staff, they'll kind of come to the conclusion as to whether or not he should come back this season or not. Again, I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum at this point, but I do think a lot, like, the perfect window has to happen. He has to be 100% healthy, no restrictions. I don't want to hear any of this like 18 minutes a game, one game on, one game off. I want him to be 100% ready to go with no fear of re-injuring, right? There can't be any like, he needs to be no restrictions, ready to go. That has to be true. And then the Celtics have to be in contention because, again, if for whatever reason they sustain a Derek White or Jaylen Brown injury, they get off to a really slow start. It looks like they're going to be at the bottom half of the Eastern Conference, like barely a play-in team. If that's the case, let's just let Tatum get in the best shape of his life and come back next October and go get ourselves like a real draft pick. And people will be like, "Well, a draft pick doesn't make sense on the timeline." Listen, you can draft the player and he can be a part of your rotation. You can move the asset to get another star to come in. Like there's lots of different things you can do. So that is how I would approach this. That's how I think the Celtics are going to approach it. But just interesting to see them walk it back just a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the front court. We got mostly Xavier Tillman updates here, outside of Josh Minott, which I guess will include Josh Minott in the front court. Josh Minott, great quotes, and he was like he really enjoys working with Joe Mazzulla, inspiring and a bit of a weirdo. I just like that. Everybody feels very comfortable calling Joe Mazzulla a weirdo. We've seen it across all other players on the Celtics, other coaches, media. Everybody just is fine calling Joe weird. I love it. I just think that's funny. But the front court is kind of all over the place here, where we get a lot of Xavier Tillman updates. Whereas Xavier Tillman supposedly down 12 pounds and said he's been working on the three ball a lot. Reminds me of a certain offseason of a former Celtics, says Nick NBA, who, shout out Nick NBA, now covers the Celtics blog. I think he's referring to Al Horford, who, listen, similar builds, I get it. I think we've talked about this with lots of big men. It is very easy for NBA players to hit three-pointers in a practice gym with nobody around them. We'll be fascinated to see if Xavier Tillman's the work that he's done on his outside game is able to translate to gameplay in actual NBA games. But the front court is wide open. I think Neemias Queta has I think he's going to get first crack at it. He's in the lead in the clubhouse right now. And then Tillman right behind him. Luka Garza, I'm sorry. I think we already know what we have with Luka Garza at this point, but excuse me. But Brad Stevens also said, I don't know how the front court is going to play itself out right now. I can't predict it. And I thought that was like the first honest conversation they've talked about the lack of depth in the front court. Again, like if you want to include the forward position, you could throw Josh Minott, Chris Boucher in there, but then again, the three-headed monster of Luka Garza, Neemias Queta, and Xavier Tillman. And it seems like we will learn a lot, and that's why Media Day is great, but as we get into training camp, which I'm going to pose a question to you here at the end, as we get into training camp, I think those types of reports are going to be fascinating to see who is emerging as, the starter and the backup in the front court. Is it really just going to be big man by committee? Everybody plays 14 minutes a game? I don't know. Do they throw Jordan Walsh at the 5? Go like real small ball? I don't know. They're not going to do that. But I thought that was interesting to see Brad actually go out and say that, to be like, we don't, we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I think that's good. I appreciate the honesty in those moments. Back to Tatum saying he doesn't feel any pressure to return until he's 100% healthy. The most important thing is that 100% recovered and healthy when he does come back. That's good to hear. I also just want to share another quote. This is back to Al Horford. Joe Varai, who I believe covers for the Warriors for, Unstoppable. SB Nation. He said with the Warriors signing Al Horford, he said more like the geriatric state Warriors. I love that. That's pretty funny. Good for him. All right, let's get to the other big topic of conversation yesterday was Anfernee Simons. Anfernee Simons' first media day with the Boston Celtics. Lots of good quotes from Simons saying he's really excited to be in a winning environment. It seemed like the teammates have connected with Simons quite a bit, or at least were saying all the right things. We're pretty happy to have him there. But the big conversation was around defense, which I thought was pretty interesting. Sorry, guys, we're battling the elements today. Feeling much better. Still super congested. But the conversation was around defense. And Anfernee Simons said he was super excited to come to Boston and join a culture that has already been set. He said veteran Evan Turner emphasized how much he loved his time in the organization. Shout out to Evan Turner. Didn't expect to get Evan Turner quotes on NBA Media Day. He was a fun Celtic. Number 2 overall pick from the Ohio State. Didn't really pan out as a superstar, but then really found himself as a pretty solid role player for quite a bit of time. And also one of the craziest voices I've ever heard. Sounds like if Kermit the Frog was an NBA player. But shout out Evan Turner. But yeah, Simon, a lot of conversation around Simon's defense too. Will he be able to step it up? He believes that he will. He said defense is all about culture, setting the tone, and trying. And he believes that through Mazzulla's coaching and being around the talented Celtics infrastructure, that level of defense is going to step it up. One thing that always makes me nervous when a player says something like that, that makes me think like you're only going to try if all the situation's perfect. You know what I mean? Like, why weren't you trying? Why weren't you trying on the other team? Like, why? Like, yeah, that's nice. That's nice of you to say that, like, ooh, the players around me make me just want to be better. And I'm sure there's some truth to that. But, like, I don't know. I think you should be already trying. But, listen, I can't speak to the Portland situation. Let's actually talk about Portland for a second. Two things. Time Lord, man. Time Lord is still not cleared for contact. That sucks. Robert Williams, I feel like has such upside if he could just stay on the court, and that's been the problem with him. He hasn't been able to. So Portland now without Time Lord, obviously Damian Lillard, Scoot Henderson got hurt too. And then there was some Jeremy Grant questions. So I'm going to actually just throw some names. It reminded me seeing Media Day reminded me there's some players that aren't going to be on their teams very long. Jeremy Grant is going to be finding a new home at some point. That's going to be a fun trade name to pay attention to. And then Lauri Markkanen, another guy that won't be long for Utah. And again, I feel like those are players that teams are going to be interested in. I would love for the Celtics to get involved in the Lauri Markkanen sweepstakes, but I think you should pay attention to the Detroit Pistons because that feels more like the team that's going to get their shot. One other weird thing from yesterday, Jaylen Brown was just like streaming the whole time. He was streaming the whole time. He says I actually thought this was a healthy response, even though I don't know how thrilled I am that every player is just like, let's be on Twitch at the same time. He just said that he's like really comfortable with himself. And he's like comfortable opening up a little bit. And shout out a man that's been to therapy. That's therapy talk right there. Shout that out. JB seems healthy, ready to go. Jaylen also mentioned this is like the most healthy he's been in a while. He feels athletically 100%. Like that he's excited to play basketball, which is a reminder that he was battling that knee injury for quite some time last season. So good to see him healthy, ready to go. He also brought Bill Nye the Science Guy to NBA Media Day. So while Noah Dalzell and while Jay King were asking questions, you had Bill Nye was on Twitch, was on JB's Twitch doing like science shit. Game's changed. The game's changed. Let me see if I missed anything else here from yesterday. We mentioned the 5 on, 5 off, like the hockey shifts that they're going to be doing. Let me see if I missed any other good quotes here. But yeah, Bill Nye, the Science Guy, just watching JB. Sam Hauser talked a little bit about the thought of being traded this offseason and how he kind of thought that might go down. He would have understood, but that he's appreciated his time in Boston and like no ill will if that happens. I do think Sam Hauser and Anfernee Simons are going to be two names that are continued to throw into trade rumors just like this whole season as the season goes along. So we'll see how they handle it. Shout out Peyton Pritchard, man. Peyton Pritchard said he's been back. Okay, awesome. Thank you for knocking while I'm clearly working. There you go. That's some real life stuff. We get to hear the Amazon guy just slam on the window. Welcome to New York, baby. Oh, God. Really love to see that stuff. Anyways, Peyton Pritchard said he's been back in Boston, back and forth, since the second week of August. And this is something that every player has kind of commented on, was their response to seeing Tatum like in the gym. Just busting his ass day in and day out. So Pritchard went on and said, "You never want to see somebody get injured like that, but watching how he's been able to approach each and every day and the spirit he has is unbelievable. And I think he'll be better than what he was before. That's the type of mentality he has, and that's the type of work he's putting in." So you love to hear that. Just truly, everybody was just singing his praises. Pritchard also said he cut out drinking alcohol last season and plans to do it again. Said he's also focused on recovering at a high level through sleep and whatever else, with the potential of playing more minutes this season. I'm excited. Again, this is media day. Everybody's like, you know what? I'm not drinking anymore, and I'm cutting out fast food. I'm also going to get stronger, but thinner and leaner. So I like that it's in media days. Just positivity all around. The question I wanted to pose to you, because there weren't too many comments from yesterday's video. What are the things that you are looking forward to seeing from training camp? Again, yesterday's just media day. We're answering questions. Now we get into the gym. I think things that I'm looking forward to are reports around the front court. I really am. I know we talked about it already. I'm curious to see, like, how is Kata doing with the first team? How is he evolving as a player? What are the reports around that? Same thing with Tillman too. Like, we've talked about Tillman a couple of times this offseason. Like, he was going through a lot of stuff last season, and both on and off the court, was not healthy. Now he seems to be good to go, both physically and mentally. Adding a three ball will get him on the floor more. It will. So what does that look like? And Luka Garza is just the ultimate wild card. And then really, I'm looking forward to Hugo Gonzalez quotes. It sounds like they've been doing some good team camaraderie stuff. They were all watching the NFL together, and he was joking that he had no idea what was going on. He was just watching men run around. But I'm curious to see how Hugo and Baylor, are they able to carve out a role? Is Jordan Walsh able to step up a little bit? Those are going to be the things that I'm looking forward to hearing about. But curious to hear from you guys. What are you looking forward to? We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully with some more fun updates. But do me a favor, hit that subscribe. Let's get up to 3K. Let's give away some Celtics tickets, and let's hope this cough isn't here tomorrow. We'll see you next time.